If you have been watching the news at all lately or have kept up with any of the political talk going on, you've probably heard a lot about the chemicals and toxins that our children are being exposed to. This is something that's not new to us. We have been talking about this for years and years, and we know that children and chemicals do not mix. And in fact, 40% of all kids have some sort of chronic illness, whether that is allergies or asthma or ADHD. The list truly does go on of all of the conditions that kids are now being diagnosed with, and it is climbing at an absurd amount. So this is something that we have been talking about for quite some time, and it might be new to some people, but other parents may have really had their eyes open to it a very long time ago, of all of the outward toxins and things in our environment that we cannot really escape, and all of the damage it's doing to our really fragile young children and their bodies. And so it's so interesting because when we think about it, when you become pregnant, you start researching all of the things you want to use for your baby, and it's baby labeled products, and it might be free and clear, it might have no fragrance on it. But why do we stop using those clean products as soon as our children get a bit older? Why did we never just use those all of the time? It starts to be a little more eye-opening when you start really digging into what is in our makeup and what is in our food, what is in our plastic water bottles, what is in our water. And spoiler alert, Florida has terrible water quality. And so we really can be taking so many steps to really ensure that our environment and our homes are much more toxin-free. It's something that we talk about here at the office. Most of us are very into this more holistic, toxin-free lifestyle. But when we talk about our kids having more serious illnesses, it's not just something physical that we're always seeing. Sometimes this toxic load comes in the form of stress. And so from a different perspective, when we talk about our kids really gaining more diagnoses, more labels behind their name of what they have going on, kind of the alphabet soup of diagnoses, we know that there is also a common component that we term stress, but stress can be a few things. It can be toxins, it can be more emotional, the thoughts, and then it can also be just the trauma of life, trauma of birth, trauma of any physical component. And so the main thing that all babies have in common is that they have been born, whether it was vaginally or via cesarean. Any birth is going to be rather traumatic. And so we really start seeing this perfect storm of children that have this stress kind of compound. And that could have been emotional stress, whether mom had trouble getting pregnant, had trouble staying pregnant, had a death or some sort of marital issue while she was pregnant, had maybe some of her own issues going on with pregnancy, and just the constant stress of waiting to hear the heartbeat or hearing if her blood pressure was too high, or if there was something else going on during her appointments or at the end of her pregnancy when they were talking about inducing. And all of that stress immediately goes through the blood-brain barrier and crosses that placenta into baby. And so we know, actually there's a really great study that shows how many chemicals are in the placenta. If you ever want to Google it, they have done research on how many microplastics live within your placenta after baby is born, and it is disgusting. So we know not only are babies being fed lots of toxins and chemicals, then our emotional state as a pregnant mother is also giving them more stress, more trauma, and just by our emotions and by our inability to regulate our emotions. So we know that the stress can start there. It can also be during the actual birth process. And I always tell every patient, even the most natural home birth, I had a beautiful water birth with rose petals around me. Baby's head and neck are still being pushed against a closed cervix, every contraction that you have. And so there is physical stress on the head and neck from a very, very natural, no intervention, no assisting baby on the way out type of birth. And then we talk about the more serious interventions like forceps, like a vacuum, like cesarean, where they are pulling them out between the shoulder blades or by their head and using what we estimate when they assist a baby out, 60 to 90 pounds of pressure is what studies show. So you can imagine the physical stress that is happening to a baby while they are being born. Then we talk about, of course, postpartum, when hormones are a little bit up and down. There's a lot that changes for mom, a lot that changes within your household dynamic. There is a lot more stress outwardly that baby can pick up on. They don't have the ability to regulate their own emotional control yet, their HRV. So their body might lean into a fight or flight, more sympathetic dominance just because of these stressors. So then now we know that children early on in life, all of those challenges start to compound, and then those initial stressors turn into something else. So if your doctor has ever said your child has blank, they'll grow out of it. It's normal, or it's no big deal. It's not caused by anything that you are doing. That might not be the best or true advice. And so what we see in our office is that this early stress is going to basically start children off on a more vulnerable state, where now these additional stressors, these toxins, our food, our water, whatever it might be, they're more easily affected by them. So our children are starting off at a weaker point because we have all these physical stressors. And so we know that the nervous system is basically going to control everything within that body, and it is trying to make sure our body can stay in a regulated state. It can stay in a state where we can do things like rest and digest, and we can also run from the bear if we need to. But our nervous system can get very overloaded, and our brain can send improper signals if that's all the messages it's been given. And so when we have early physical trauma and stress, we have those subluxations in the head and neck causing altered signals to the brain. Then we're going to have dysfunction with sleeping, with digestion, with immunity, with emotional regulation. And so when we see children that have these issues, they don't grow out of it. We see that they grow into something else. And so it's very common a baby will come to us for colic or reflux, or maybe breastfeeding issues. And then those same children start to develop ear infections at some point. Those same children then start to develop allergies, asthma, and then while they may have grown out of it, the symptoms really just morphed and changed into something else. Stress can't just go away unless you are doing something physical about that. So then we see kids who are a little bit older and they're having anxiety, and that is its own epidemic in itself, is how many children now are having serious anxiety that we see as just this spiral, this perfect storm of all of these predisposing factors have now led them to this point, and they're really struggling as a young adult or teenager. So it's really hard to see kids be told that they'll grow out of it, because then they just get layered on another problem, and then that problem gets deeper. It becomes who they are, and so it's harder to help once we've accumulated all of these diagnoses, all of these issues, all of these medical problems that were never really addressed. And so at our office, we really try to get to the root cause of things, and we try to get back to that layer, peel the onion, get back to that root cause of the stress, the physical trauma, the stress that happened via IVF cycles and having to do the drugs, and the stress that happens from trying to get pregnant for so long and having fertility struggles, or the stress of a really hard and difficult labor where your provider didn't believe you or didn't trust your body to do what it needed to do. And so all of the stress really accumulates for our kids, and so we have to do something about that. And so whether we are living in an environment where everything is toxic and we're exposed to all of these chemicals, that is not the only problem. We have to give our kids a better foundation and less stress, so when they have these chemicals thrown at them from the goldfish, from the red 40 that's in Kellogg's Special K, that they can fight that. Their body is healthy enough at a baseline to deal with that, versus their body already being very burdened, their body not having a good response to insults, chemical insults in the body. So we really, at our office, try really, really hard to get to the root cause, see what is furthering all of these problems and what can we do about it now. So at our office, we are going to always do scans on the first visit. We are looking to see HRV, stress, inflammation, really trying to see within the body, where is there a problem? Is it within that vagus nerve? Is it in the gut? Are we not making neurotransmitters? Where are we lacking a good response from our body, brain system, response time, synapses, all of the things that make your body tick and work and give you the ability to thrive? We try to get there and figure out what the problem actually is, because unfortunately it might take a really long time for our world to not be dirty and toxic, and we can't wait for our kids. We can't afford to sit back and just wait for the companies to remove food dyes or to remove some of these chemicals and the toxins and the lead and all the things that we're being poisoned with. So we need to get our kids healthier from the get-go. We need to start with preconception. We need to get our bodies healthier. And one of the first and most important ways to do that is chiropractic care. So if you are looking to either get pregnant in the near future, if you have a child who's brand new and you are really wondering if what they have going on is normal, or you're being told and gaslit that it is normal and you know as a mom it's not, our office would be a really great place to start and to get some answers. So you are welcome to give our office a call, get scheduled. If you need have any questions, give us a call as well. We look forward to talking to you.